Now we finally get to do something fun with graphics. I want to emphasize here that for me, you can build a brand new application for this. I don't need you to integrate it into anything else that's happened before. I want you to start with a brand new application. I want you to start with a brand new project to keep it simple. So see, I'm starting with a basic Java project. I don't need to do anything fancy to do some graphics. So this is my logo madness inside of here. So in my logo madness, I'm going to start with just getting a graphics window to show up. I need something to house my graphics within. And so I'm going to build what's called a JFrame, a javax.swing.jframe. And that's going to be my main window here. New JFrame. Now, notice I can put a title inside of here. So I can say Tony Logo Madness. Woohoo! All right, so one line of code, test it, run it, and nothing happened. Why? Because just because I create a window doesn't mean a window shows up. Java has to set up a few other things inside of my window. So what I have to do inside of my window is I have to do a few basic things for sure. One of the basic things I need to do is I need to set the size of the window, set the bounds of the window here. Now the first XY is the location that the window is going to be created at. Now this is 00 is the top left corner of your screen. If you want it to be over further, I can make it over 1,000 and then down 100. And then the width of this, however wide you want it to be, let's say I want it to be 500 wide, and we'll have it be a little bit taller by 600 tall. All right, again, this is not good enough. I hit run, it stops. The window never does anything. It didn't actually show up anywhere. So I also have to do a couple other things. One of the things I want to do is, this is a side note, I'm going to set the default, set default close operation. See this method here, I'm using control space, I'm getting that. Default close operation. This is a little extra feature to make your life slightly easier that the JFrame has built into it. You can see I'm doing JFrame control space here. It has some constants. One of them is called exit on close. And so by default, Java Windows, when you hit that little X button, does not stop your application. You have to tell it, by the way, when on default, if somebody hits the X button, have it be closed. You could override that feature that if somebody hits the X button, it just minimizes into the taskbar. Or it asks you, do you wish to save before you close, or whatever you want it to do. So we need to tell it what to do when it closes, and then we need to do set visible. We need to tell it to say show this window. We don't want to assume the window is going to show to be true. So now, once I've put all these pieces in, I hit run, I have a window that showed up. Now I have a double monitor, so it showed up on my other screen. I can drag and drop it over here. Just out of curiosity, if I set this to be 1500, go off and run this again. Oh, it's getting closer. It's not quite there yet. Let me go for 2500. I hit run, and there it shows up right in the middle here. So my double wide monitor here comes all the way over 2500 and then shows up in the middle here. But the point being is it listens to what this number is. If you ran my code here, this would probably show up off of your screen entirely. So you have to be careful what this is going to be. You might want to start with this 00. In your default operation. I'm going to leave it here for now because it's going to make my life a little bit easier because this is going to pop up right in front of us when we hit run. But I'll probably change this back to 00 when I share my code with you. All right, so now that I have this, I am started. I'm ready to do graphics. I need graphics objects though. Now if you remember, to get the graphics objects, I need to be a Java GUI component, a Java graphics component. And so I'm going to build a new component here. I right click over here, new Java class. And this is going to be my actual logo that I'm going to go off and build. And so for the actual drawing, I want to draw this into a component. Now, since I have my window already, I'm going to extend out something called a JPanel. The JPanel control space is from the Swing library as well. And this gives me a blank piece of paper to draw on. It has nothing on it, no behavior that's associated with it. It's whatever I want to make of it. And so the way I can do that is I can right click or hit Alt Insert to go to Insert Code. And I can override a method. And in JPanel, you can see there's no paint method. But I can walk up the hierarchy. So J component, if I cycle down through here, I can see, oh, look, here is a paint method right here. There's a bunch of paint methods, but what we really care about is the paint right here. So I can say generate this guy. And so now I have an overridden method and a method public void paint, and most importantly, I have my graphics object. Now, the super is painting if there was something already painted on the component. I could extend the component that's already painted and paint more on it if I want to, but more likely, you just delete that out. So here, the graphics object is good. I'm going to make my code a little bit better because I want to go to the newer graphics object. It's still a decade or more old, but this was added after the initial graphics object called graphics 2D. And I'm going to change this to be G and this to be G1, just so I can keep the simple typing this of graphics object as G here. And this is equal to, I have to map this. So from my graphics object 1, I can cast this down into a graphics 2D object, which I forgot to import, control space. Because every graphics object in Java got replaced behind the scenes with the graphics 2D object. They just didn't want to update the interface. They didn't want to change the way code worked ahead of time. But the secret is they're all graphics 2D objects, which gives us a couple extra capabilities. So what can I do with a graphics object, or in this case a graphics 2D object? G dot, control space. Now this is all the things you can do. We're going to play with a number of these. By no means are we going to create all of these. So we're going to go through and look at a bunch of them eventually. The best way to start with something new is always drawing text. Hello world. So notice there's a bunch of drawstring methods. The two we care about is either using floats or integers. Either one will work for our purposes. I'll pick the integer one because you can't tell the difference once we get going inside of here. But hello graphics. And I need to pick a location for this. So let's pick 0, 0. All right. So drawing, like I said before, 0, 0, top left corner, because that's the way it works inside of most computer systems. There's no negative numbers. It's not like Cartesian planes. You start in the middle. So there, I'm ready to go. I can draw my display, run it. Oh, nothing showed up. Oh, wait a minute. That makes sense. I drew a picture, but I didn't share it with anybody. That's like if I make this video, I don't upload it to the internet, you're never going to see it. So I need to plug my logo into my display here. So how do I do that? Well, that's not so bad. Personally, I like to set the bounds, get everything set up first. But before I make it visible, I'm going to add in my item. So I'm going to create a new logo here. Logo is equal to new logo. That's a lot of the word logo right there. And then I'm going to say window.add. I'm going to add in the component inside of here of my logo. And so now my logo is tied into my display. It's going to show up. All right. So I hit run. Wait a minute. It didn't show up. So I had these lines of code, and they were there, and now they're not there. So let me do something real quick. Let me comment these two lines of code. Control Shift C. I commented them out. I'm going to run it, and there's nothing there. So let me move this over to the side for a second. Let me uncomment these. Control Shift C. Oops. Just these two. Control Shift C, and let me run it again. All right. So there's the second one I ran. Here's the first one I ran. I want you to look at them side by side. Okay. If you can pause and look at it side by side if you want to. If I move them over like this and look at them, you might notice there's this tiniest little dot on the second one that isn't on the first one. And that's the only hint that you might have. You probably wouldn't even have noticed looking at them side by side if I hadn't pointed it out. I just happen to know that 0, 0 inside of my drawing is literally the top left corner. And so when I run it, the top left corner is all the way up here underneath the window bar inside of there. So for whatever logical reason, when Java authors went off and added that in, it put it in 0, 0. So I would have to put at least 0, 10. The first 10 pixels or so, maybe even a little bit more than that, you see, are the top bar. So when I go to 0, 10, with the y coordinate being down 10 here, my graphics show up. Just to show you, if I went 0, 100, it would move it way down this page. So the second number The bigger the number, the further down the display goes. If I make this number to be 1,000, it's going to not show up again because it's all the way off the bottom of the page. If I make it bigger, maybe my screen's not 1,000 tall. I'm not going to be able to see it. So let's just drop it maybe to 700. And I get run. It doesn't show up. Oh, there you go, 700. It's way down at the bottom. So this is absolute positioning. And so you got to be a little careful when you put this stuff in here about where things go. Now, there's a basic graphics. From here, you draw, you go crazy, there's your logo. Okay, we're not really finished yet, but I want you to stop and get this much working. I want you to get a window popping up. I want hello graphics showing up inside of there. If you don't get those two things working, zip up your code, send it to me, and say, hey, why isn't it working? Because if you can't get these working, you're probably not going to be able to get any further. And it's okay. I mean, there's a few things to get sorted out, but get this working and then send it over to me. Again, the biggest thing, don't leave this 2,500. Bring this down to 00. It's going to work a little bit better. And it'll make a little more sense. Again, it doesn't show up when I hit run here because it's all the way on my left hand, all the way over here. I come back and there it is. But as you're typing your code, make sure it's 00 here, and then here it's bigger than 00. It's 0 at least 10. All right, so do that and then jump into the next one.